welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week we're exploring Minimal Dungeon RPG. That's a creative name.
On some level, yes.
We are wrapping up Luigi's Mansion 3, and we are getting back to Life is Strange 2, Dragon Quest Builders 2, and Persona 5.
Wow, it's a real classic game show.
It is.
It feels like kind of a retro episode.
Digging deep into the vault on these, yeah. Way back to 2019 when Dragon Quest Builders 2 came out.
Can't let it go.
So, I noticed on the way in, DJ, that we've been listening to some new music. What's going on there? What's up with that?
Let's give this guy a shout out. So for the last few episodes, we have been enjoying the tunes of Desk from the wonderful world of Bandcamp. Listening to a few songs off of a couple of his albums. I really like this. I forget how I ran across this Desk originally, but it really stuck out from all the other typical chiptune stuff that I hear because it's not really like what I think of as chiptune music. It's got much more of like a little later era sound to it. It's like a little bit of that Sega Genesis or like 90s arcade FM synthesis going on, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan. Happy to be able to feature it here on the show. And if you like what you hear during the intro and the outro, you can head over to megadesk.bandcamp.com. It's a good reference. And check out some of his stuff.
What's the reference? I don't think I get the reference. If you have to explain it, is it less fun?
I don't know. I figured it was like a Mega Drive thing, like Sega Mega Drive.
Oh, okay.
Or you could go with like Megadeth. I don't know. It doesn't really have that connection to me.
No, I don't know where that would overlap with Megadeth. That would be interesting.
Anyway, Desk, thanks a lot.
Yeah, good find. Yeah, that's excellent. Man, Bandcamp is the gift that keeps on giving. You can just click from band to band to reference on there and just inevitably stumble across very good stuff.
You know, I don't really use the like discovery stuff on there that much. Usually I'm just like in and out. I hear about somebody from somewhere and be like, oh, this is a good album. I'll take this. And then I go away and I'm inevitably disappointed when they're just not in my Spotify library later on. So I have to actually put those on my phone or whatever.
Right.
You know, like in the old days.
I use the thing on Bandcamp where you follow other people. And when they like something or they download something or buy something, it gives you a little alert that says, hey, this person on the internet who shares similar musical taste as you likes this other thing on Bandcamp. So it's, it is a way of kind of reverse engineering my interests a little bit.
I guess I have not really put the time into developing my Bandcamp network. So maybe that's something I should do.
Just one more social network you're neglecting, DJ.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, good. Excited to feature Desk on the show.
Yeah.
Next week on the show, Lamp.
Lamp. Can't wait.
Yeah. So this weird collection of games, DJ, do you find like me, maybe, that you're kind of just waiting for a game that's coming out in March and don't quite know what to do with yourself? So you find that you're just playing a bunch of random other things because you don't really want to commit to anything pretty seriously right now?
No, I'm just playing a bunch of different things because that has just been my life for like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I just can't deal with it.
Yeah, I suppose this is not entirely different from what I normally do, but I don't know. I'm afraid of starting like a 100-hour game and getting to March 20th and Animal Crossing comes out and that game just disappears off of my radar.
It used to be that like growing up, we'd have like a Super Nintendo or something and a computer or whatever. And maybe this is going too far back, but I would always have like one game per platform because that was really all I could manage at the time. Like it was absurd to think that there would just be like, oh, I gotta go down to the store and pick up every Super Nintendo game that came out this week. It was just like, no, this is my one game for however long. And it eventually developed so when we moved into the PlayStation N64 years, I would just have I was fortunate enough to have both of those. And still I would kind of continue just the mindset of, one game per platform at a time. So I've kind of kept that up to some extent, but now I just have like 10 platforms you can play video games on. So I'm just like, what can I be doing on this one? What am I playing on the Switch? What am I playing on PS4?
You're playing Dragon Quest Builders 2 on your Instant Pot.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm playing a bunch of terrible games on my phone because it's just inescapable.
Sure. Yeah. And it's always there.
It is.
Yeah. I'm fairly confident I've played every word puzzle game on the Android Google Play Store.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Because sometimes like ones pop up in there and I'm like, oh, that one looks fun. And I'll download it and I'll go, oh, no, wait, I played this. So yeah, I've been through all of them.
Okay,
so
well then you can get rid of your phone at this point.
Right, just throw it away. It's not really good for anything else anyways. Yeah. So, I'm in, I guess, a slightly different scenario in that I tend to salad bar games a little bit. I do a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. And I generally kind of have 15 games that I've played to some level of completion. But that gets real frustrating. And I start to feel like I've got games like Control or Persona 5 or Luigi's Mansion 3 that I really like, that I want to finish.
God, you just reminded me. I'm probably up to like 2 or 3 games per platform at this point.
Okay, so you're with me then on this.
Yeah, I got real bad about that last year, or like the last couple of years anyway. But this year, I'm really trying to focus these down and finish them, so I can, say that I finished them and then move on to the next thing.
Right. Yeah, and there is like a sense of pride, a sense of sort of completion in getting a game done.
Yeah, I mean, plus I just feel bad about leaving these kind of twisting in the wind.
So that is kind of the point that I'm at now, where there's not, fortunately, there doesn't seem to be like 100 new games coming out a week, so I don't have a lot of pressure to sort of play.
There are.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to ignore that as much as possible, and really just sort of maybe try to clean up some of the stuff that I had pending in the background over the last, year or 5, while I wait for Animal Crossing to come out in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just biding your time.
Yeah, which is silly because Animal Crossing is not the kind of game that, like, I can sit down and play for 9 hours at a stretch. So it's goofy to think that is just going to be this all-consuming thing in my life. But
we know that first week is going to be pretty rough.
It is. Yeah, it's a lot of odd jobs, a lot of housekeeping.
You got to get back to the status quo from the previous Animal Crossing where you left off.
Is there some way that I can transfer my 14 million bells out of my bank account in New Leaf into my bank account in New Horizons? Is that possible?
Can't take it with you.
Yeah. Is there an Animal Crossing Pokédex? Does that exist?
They probably cancel that at this point, just the way things are going. I think it'd be real fun if they would just convert Animal Crossing to like the MMO model. Maybe not entirely, but just like have it be a thing that just exists forever and it's always the same Animal Crossing that you log back into, because then they could do stuff like they could do expansions and that would be exciting.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. That was my frustration with Happy Home Designer, and I'm with apologies to our listeners. It was not my intent to go down an Animal Crossing rabbit hole here, but DJ started this.
Oh, sure, yeah.
When Happy Home Designer came out, it was sort of like this. It was essentially an expansion on New Leaf. It was kind of doubling down on the home design aspect of it and the real estate kind of aspect of it, and the collection and completionist aspect of New Leaf, of Animal Crossing in general. But
it wasn't really an expansion in the way that I think of like a game receives an expansion. It was its own standalone thing.
Right, and that was super frustrating for me because when I first popped that game in, I was still pretty actively playing New Leaf, and in the first 10 minutes of Happy Home Designer, it's like, design your character. And I'm like, well, I have a character. I have an Animal Crossing character that I've been content to play with for the last 5 years. Why do I have to make a new one? Why can't I just bring that one over? Yeah, those worlds should combine, I think. So yes, I would agree with you on that. I think there should be sort of the unified Animal Crossing universe.
That'd be pretty good.
That would be good.
I might get back into it if that were the case.
Maybe the Switch is the portal to that. We know surprisingly little about New Horizons.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I wonder when they're going to delay it. Shut
your mouth. You shut your mouth, DJ Ross.
Still time.
Right, yeah. We regret to inform you. No! I think the internet would lose its mind.
They're going to announce an Animal Crossing Direct, and as soon as it comes up, like the Nintendo logo is going to be like white on a black screen. It's like, now a very special Nintendo Direct.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I already follow like 20 people on Twitter that every time there is a new like screenshot or, I don't know, an ad appears in a Japanese magazine, like they do blow-ups, they do breakdowns, they do, this is the first sighting of this character from New Horizons. Yeah, it's ridiculous how much minutia people are kind of pouring over because we know nothing else about the game. So
they got nothing else to work with.
Yeah, it's gonna be nutty once we get that first real kind of drop of information.
Yeah. Gonna be I don't know, pandemonium on the internet.
This has led me to the place that I'm at currently, where I've been trying really pretty assertively to get through Luigi's Mansion 3. So
I thought you finished
it. I did, yeah. In the last week or so, we went on vacation a week and a half ago or so, and I brought the Switch with me. And on the flight back, kind of all my downtime, whenever I had some sitting by the pool, I'd grab a little shade and try to play my way through a floor of Luigi's Mansion 3. Yeah, and that is a game that inspires a lot of kind of completionist motivation in me. So, you know,
did you 100% Luigi's Mansion 3?
I'm real close, DJ, to 100%ing Luigi's Mansion 3. So, each floor, there's 15 floors to the hotel. Each floor has, I think, 5 or 6 little crystal gems that are themed to that floor, hidden somewhere in it. And I have found all of those on every floor.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and you have to work really hard to find those. There's also a hidden boo on every floor that you have to do a series of mysterious kind of machinations to unveil. And I've found a lot of those, but there's some that I cannot seem to suss out. There is a little function in the game where you can pay 1,000 coins, 1,000 in-game dollars. And at this point I have like $190,000 in the game. So
you're set.
I'm set. I'm good. I can throw money around if I want to. But it gives you the location of the hidden boo if you're missing one. And I kind of want to figure it out on my own.
That seems like a cop-out.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, it's fine that it's there, but
sure.
Respect to those who go seek out the hidden boo on their own.
Yeah, that's me.
Seems like it should be pretty easy to find. You just kind of face away, and then he comes over to you eventually.
You have to find him first, though.
If I understand how, boos traditionally
How's boos work? Yeah. But no, inevitably, it's sort of like you and Luigi have to do something simultaneously, and it usually involves like Luigi pointing his vacuum cleaner at a crank that spins while you point your vacuum cleaner at a curtain and yank it off the wall, and that, I don't know, tears the... or something. Like a series of things happens. This little Rube Goldberg kind of contraption unveils the hidden boo in a level. Yeah, so those are the things that I'm trying to sort of sneak around and find now. I've seen the end. The end was delightful. The whole like penthouse suite was a blast. It was a really good time. No spoilers here, obviously. I won't sort of ruin this for anybody who wants to see it. But I have been enamored, and I've talked quite a bit in the past about just how impressed I am by the level design and how much variety there is from floor to floor in Luigi's Mansion 3, and that does not stop when you get to the penthouse. There are 2 bosses essentially in this game. There's King Boo, who's the big bad guy, and he has the kind of the hotel manager who reports to him. So the hotel manager lives on the penthouse level, and her offices are just a lot of fun. Like every room is a puzzle. There's a lot of again, a lot of those weird mechanisms and stuff that happen where parts of the rooms kind of like warp and twist and rotate. And so, yeah, the whole thing feels like a puzzle that you're trying to solve. So, yeah, it's really super satisfying. It's a really, really good time kind of unveiling all of the little secrets hidden.
Nice.
Yeah, and then
do you generally like try and 100% a floor as you're doing it for the first time, or do you leave stuff to come back to later and do kind of like a whole sweep of the place?
Finish it before I get on the elevator, because as soon as you get, the little mini boss for each floor is holding on to the button for the elevator for the next floor. So you've got to beat the boss, collect the button, plug it back into the elevator, you push it, you go up 1 floor. So I commit myself to exploring everything I can, finding everything I can, especially all of those hidden gems, before I push the button to go up to the next floor. Because I know, again, the way that
restraint.
the way that I consume games, it's extremely unlikely that I will come back to this at some point in the future and go, hey, I'm going to go back to that level I did 2 years ago and get, the hidden gem I didn't get.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've attempted to 100% the game, but I feel like I was more on the latter, where I'd just be like, or maybe I'd like try and 100% each level as I went, but I would fall off that pretty quickly after the third or fourth stage or something.
Yes.
Like,
it's usually the way I consume
later.
The new Mario games, because the Mario games always inevitably have like the 3 big coins hidden somewhere in them, and you have to do a lot of wacky shit, some crazy double, triple jumps or whatever to find kind of one or two of the hidden coins.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to get all the hidden coins. And then I realize that my skill level is not there. And there's just no way I'm going to get all the hidden coins. Yeah. But yeah, Luigi. So it is a really good time. I just had a blast playing it. I think I can say without hesitation that it's easily my favorite game from 2019.
Besides Death Stranding.
Well, yeah, of course. It goes without saying. But yeah, it's a delight. And I've not even dipped into the multiplayer, the co-op, all the other sort of stuff that is tacked onto that package. Just the core game itself, which is quite significantly, quite a significant endeavor. I think my save said I had 24 and a half hours with it.
Oh, that's it?
I think that's a really long game. That's a pretty long... I don't play 25-hour games generally, so... So yeah, I was really impressed by how long Luigi's Mansion was.
Oh man, okay. I was just imagining, I don't know, 100% thing a Nintendo game? It's true, not everything is Dragon Quest. Thank God.
Yeah. Well, not 100% yet. I still have to get those boos, but...
Okay, well, I mean, getting pretty close.
Yeah. But yeah, I totally would recommend. If that's not clear to anyone just yet, Luigi's Mansion 3 is a delight. You should absolutely play it.
Nice.
Yeah. But now that that's done, I didn't quite know what to do with myself.
Now you're off to graze over to the next thing.
Yes, yep. Just sample the next thing on the video game salad bar that is my life.
What was the next thing, or do you want to take a break from it?
I'll take a break. We'll let you dip in. The next thing for me was Persona 5, but we can come back to that a little bit later.
That's one of those other, very short, brief game experiences.
Yeah, my save on that says that I had spent 67 hours with it. And still had somehow not seen the end of it. So, yeah, there's quite a bit left of that game for me to get to. But what have you been playing? I'll come back to me in Persona 5. I've yammered on enough a bit about video games so far. What have you been playing?
Well, I decided to go back to Life is Strange 2. At this point, all 5 episodes are out. And I really liked the first episode of Life is Strange 2. And then I just took a break from it for a year. When I loaded up my save file, it was dated like December 2018. So I was like, wow, it really has been like a year since I played this thing.
And is that your... I guess maybe I don't remember the kind of episodic games well enough with you in the past. Do you generally prefer to wait for all of them to have come out so you can kind of consume them at your pace? Or do you like kind of play it, wait a month, play it, wait a month?
It's been like one or the other for me. I don't know if it's like for... Like every Telltale game, I think I played it when every episode was available.
Yeah. And Telltale was really good at kind of sticking to that cadence.
Yeah. And then with Life is Strange 1, I was super into it. I think I played most of those either like very shortly after they came out or, yeah, like right after they came out. I didn't wait a whole long time on those. I think like episodes 4 and 5, I may have stayed up until they like unlocked on Steam, and I was like, all right, Here we go. And that was good. Although I felt like it may have hurt that game a little bit just because there was such a long time between a few of those episodes that I would like forget certain character details, or somebody would show up and I'd be like, who is this? Or what did they do in the last episode? Mm-hmm. So I think I actually made the decision with Life is Strange 2 to wait till more episodes were available as well, especially since they announced that it was going to have a slightly longer production schedule than Life is Strange 1. So I think my original plan was to be like, okay, I'll play the first episode, see if I'm still into it. Yes, I'm still into it. Then I'm going to wait until like maybe episode 4 comes out and then start slowly catching up on them. So by the time I'm done with that, episode 5 will be available and I can just wrap it up. And then I just didn't do that. I just procrastinated until the entire thing came out. But I think it's going to work out because I picked up episode 2. I hadn't forgotten too much, I think. since episode 1, despite it being a year later, but I like still remembered enough of what had happened. And the game is pretty good about giving you a little recap of things. That I was able to get, I was able to just jump back in. So in case you've forgotten, since it's probably been over a year since I talked about it, Life is Strange 2.
So catch me up. What's going on?
This is the story about the two brothers who live in Seattle. I'm just going to go ahead and tell people what happens in the first episode. I'm not going to go into like crazy spoiler detail, but I will give away some things because it's kind of necessary for what happens in episode 2. Basically, due to a series of tragic events, their father is killed very early on in the story, and they are forced to like flee their neighborhood. They like kind of freak out. They're like, "Oh my god, we can't stay here. We don't know what's going to happen to us." So they basically just go on a road trip down the coast, hoping to get to Mexico because that's where their dad has family, and they're hoping to meet up with them. Mm-hmm. And then along the way, it is revealed that the younger brother, Daniel, has some sort of like supernatural, like telekinetic powers, which is the kind of a signature thing for the Life is Strange story. Like in the first one, you had kind of time manipulation powers, and in this one, he's just like telekinetic a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it's a real interesting way. It's really interesting how it kind of slots into the rest of the story because it is essentially like a road trip kind of adventure story with these two brothers. Like one of them is fairly young. Daniel's fairly young, and the character you play as Sean is, I think he's like either junior or senior in high school. And it's like very traumatic that Daniel has been forced to leave home and discover that his father was killed. And at the same time, he's trying to like figure out what to do with these powers, and his brother is trying to train him to like control them and also protect him from like using them recklessly or using them in public where other people will see them and kind of freak out about this kid who's got weird superpowers. So it's like, I don't know, it's a really fascinating premise for a game, I think. And also I just like the this manifested more in episode 1 than 2, but it really put an emphasis on the first episode, the fact that you were just two kids on your own and you have a very limited amount of like money and resources. So at one point you stop in at a little roadside diner or like a convenience store and have to figure out how you're going to spend the limited amount of money that you have in your wallet. Like, should you spend it on healthy food that's going to keep you going? Should you spend it on like soda that's going to make Daniel happy? Should you steal some stuff maybe and see if you can get away with that because you really don't have a lot of money? But a lot of really interesting
these are genuine choices the game sort of presents to you. You have to make these decisions.
Yeah. I mean, and not all of these are like, I mean, the series is kind of known for facing you with like, ooh, big decisions that you gotta, like, should I save this character or let them fall to their death or whatever? Like, nothing quite that dramatic. But it's one of those games where like your decisions have repercussions down the road, so you really need to think carefully about what you're doing. But I thought that was just, I mean, that was so different and kind of more nuanced than the typical, like, well, should I save the kids in the burning orphanage or, you know, just stand here? It was much more ambiguous. Mm-hmm. And that specific aspect didn't really reappear in episode 2, so I'm disappointed about that. But you do go through a bunch of similar situations where you have to make choices that have been kind of impacted by things that you did in episode 1, which I thought were like, oh, okay, that's very interesting, and I think is still kind of a step above what like sort of the typical decisions that I remember making in a lot of those Telltale games.
I think one of the things that sort of like lost me on the first season of Life is Strange is that I was really into kind of the sci-fi aspect of it and the time manipulation aspects of it. Mm-hmm. And that seemed, as that first season went on, it seemed like that took a bit of a backseat to kind of the melodrama between the main characters and like the elements of their lives and, you know, what is my life, and screaming at each other. And the soap opera aspects of it, I seem to overshadow kind of the fun sci-fi parts of it. Do you feel like that balance is a little less, annoying maybe in Life is Strange too?
I don't know if I really found it annoying in the first one anyway. But you were just basically saying you wanted it to focus more around the sci-fi aspects of it.
Yeah, or at least sort of toe that line a little more delicately, rather than it just feeling like there were just hours of like teen angst couched by, oh, there's a crazy thing going on with my superpowers.
So there's not as much teen angst in this one. It does focus pretty heavily on the two boys' relationship. But I think that's actually a really strong point of this game so far. It feels like the powers do come up fairly often, but a lot of it is in the context of like Sean trying to explain to Daniel like how often he should use his powers, or like in what situations he should. That's actually some of the choices you get to make, like how liberal Daniel is able to use his powers, and apparently it has some significant effects on the story, even in this episode.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know, it's not going like crazy in depth into the sci-fi angle, but it does feel like it's a little more pervasive than it was in Life is Strange 1.
Well, cool. That appeals to me, at the very least.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not getting into this specifically looking for like, oh, what's he going to do with these cool powers? I'm much more into it for kind of the road trip story.
Yeah.
Because I think it's kind of unique. It's if there's one complaint I had about it, it's that it is so difficult for me to like kind of comprehend or just like put myself in the situation they're in, because I don't know what I would do if I saw a family member like killed right in front of me. Like, would I immediately flee the scene and just like become a fugitive? That's difficult question to answer.
Right.
So, and a lot of the time they're just like trekking down the side of the road, and occasionally they'll like stop somewhere and like they'll find an abandoned shelter in the middle of the forest. And they're just like, oh, we've been out here for weeks. We've got no food or resources and everything. And it's like, well, there's like, you're just in somebody's backyard, basically. You just walk a few miles this way and civilization is there. It feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect there, but at the same time, I understand how it could be very urgent for them to like stay undetected. So that's always a little weird. It just feels like they're not just doing a road trip in, I think it's actually supposed to take place in late 2016, but basically like modern times.
Where if any sort of reasonable adult saw two kids kind of camping in their backyard, they might intervene.
Right. So they're not literally in somebody's backyard, but they're not too far off
or on the side of the road
path.
Or something.
Yeah. But anyway, I kind of like that the story so far has been more about just kind of mundane day-to-day decisions rather than just being like this grand adventure. Because that's something that's not really like, it doesn't feel like it pops up in a lot of games. It feels like almost like just a slice of life thing. It's not like every 5 minutes they're running into some ridiculous peril, like they're being attacked by wild animals or getting chased by the cops and there's the big shootout or whatever.
Right.
But a lot of it is just about like, all right, where are they going to stay this next night? Are they going to have enough money to get them where they need to go? And like, how late should Sean let Daniel stay up? Is it past his bedtime? Should he like tell him to like stop swearing on the time just because they're out of earshot of all the the adults or whatever? So it's really interesting.
It sounds like a little bit of a survival sim. Is that fair?
There's less of that in this episode. It really felt like in episode 1 it might go more in that direction, but that seems to be mostly an episode 1 thing at this point. So I'm into it. Now that I've gotten back into it, I'm just going to keep going. Move on to episode 3.
Don't lose your momentum.
I'm not going to wait another year to let this play out, because I know that the developer Don't Nod has some other stuff planned for later this year that I'd like to check out.
Oh, right, yeah.
This seems like it's gotten kind of a cooler reception than Life is Strange 1 did, and I don't know if that's just because people don't like it as much, or it's not really like a big new thing from this relatively unknown developer. But so far, I think it's pretty good. I think it has the potential to be much stronger than Life is Strange 1.
Cool. And you said, I think you said all the episodes are out now, so you can consume the entire thing without having to
They're
wait
all
anymore.
out, yeah. They're like probably 3 hours each. And I found so far that each one seems to be divided into roughly 3 segments. So I was thinking, just put in an hour here and there, chip away at it, instead of watching a TV show or whatever else I was going to do that night.
Instead of watching Picard.
Well, I mean, I got to bide my time between episodes. We're only doing one at a time.
Oh, they don't dump them all like Netflix does?
You got to wait.
In between? Oh, I didn't know that.
You got to get that subscription money. Well, I don't know. I think it's... So we're talking about Star Trek Picard, which just started.
It was a weird detour, I know, but...
I believe it is actually aired, like broadcast TV in some regions. So I think that's partly why. Partly why they just dump it all at once.
The way that you have to consume it is by subscribing to CBS's online thing.
Right.
Gotcha.
But honestly, I think I prefer when shows do that. Like, binging stuff was kind of fun for a while, but overall, I think my enjoyment is much higher if I get just like kind of the drip feed. Although that's completely opposite to what I just said is like my plan for this game is, so we'll see.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I do like occasionally doing nothing but sitting on the couch for 12 hours and watching an entire season of, I don't know, The Umbrella Academy was the last one we did that with. But yeah, sometimes it's sort of like, no, I have to clean the house. I have to run errands. I have adult responsibilities. I wish I didn't find this show so compelling. Or at the very least, I wish there was not 11 more episodes to watch.
I think you really benefit from having the downtime, though, between episodes. So you can just kind of take in what happened. Like when Star Trek Discovery was on, they did the same thing where it was just one episode per week. I would turn on the thing at 8 o'clock or whenever it comes on. I don't even think that matters. But I'd be like, watch this episode, maybe watch it 1 or 2 more times the rest of the week when I was just waiting for the new one to come out. I don't know. I felt like I just was able to appreciate it much more rather than like just blitzing 10 episodes in a row.
Well, a lot of people, the big fans, are sort of consuming it at the same speed, so then at least it's a shared experience.
Right. And that's the other thing is, if you can consume it, well, I mean, it's a little more dictated, I guess, but I feel like even if every episode was out immediately, I probably would not watch the entire season all in one sitting, but some people would. But so like absolutely. That discussion would already be happening, and I'd just be like, dodging spoilers left and right.
Right, yeah. Don't ruin the ending, please. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of my I don't know, I guess sort of need for binging TV shows, especially Netflix shows that I'm super into, like Stranger Things and stuff like that, is I'm just afraid somebody's going to ruin the end. So I feel compelled to watch it as quickly as possible when the season drops because I don't want to risk spoilers.
Yes, I don't like that. I don't want to have to do that if I don't want to watch it that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, Life is Strange 2. Pretty good.
Yeah.
One of the things I actually was wondering while playing through this is it's partly just because this is how I play all games. This is just like a reflection of my personality, I suppose, to some degree. Is that I tend to make a lot of like really safe choices in this game. The ones that seem like they have the least chance of causing some kind of like dysfunction or conflict. And actually some of that is just because, Sean and his brother in this game are trying to keep kind of a low profile. So it's really not in their interest to just pick fights with people when they're out in public. Right. But I kind of wonder if I'm just like missing out on all the ridiculous stuff that could be happening by not picking these like more dramatic choices.
Just pure chaos.
Yeah. Because like I don't want anything terrible to happen to these guys. But at the end, at the end of every Telltale game and the end of every Life is Strange 1 episode, they give you a little summary of all the choices you made, and they compare, or they let you compare it to what everybody else playing the game did.
Right, but it's like a percentage of kind of the popularity of that selection. Of
right,
that
so it's like 45% people went left and the rest of them went right, or
Right.
But just reading the summaries at the end of this one, there are some like dramatically different things that can happen. And I was just like, oh, I didn't even consider that would be a possibility. I wonder if I had just been like a little more reckless. Like somebody could get hit with a car, or, I didn't even realize, that was on the table.
Oh, interesting. I remember some of that happening in reading some of those kind of chapter endings in the first season of Life is Strange, and some of those options seemed like, where was that? Where the heck did that come from? Because I certainly didn't make anything close to that choice. So yeah, I would go good. I mean, sometimes it felt like with a lot of the Telltale games that a lot of those choices were very kind of lean shades of each other. There was not a lot of kind of deviation between them, nothing significant. So I guess it's a little exciting to know that there are sort of actual kind of consequences to some of the choices you make in Life is Strange.
And it seems like there are many more options per kind of scenario as well, because some of them would have like 3 or 4 different outcomes. When at the time you're maybe thinking like, oh, well, there's probably 1 or 2 things I could do here. But no, you get to the end summary, and it's like, oh, wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff that could happen. I had no idea.
Oh, cool.
So I feel like Don't Nod is doing a pretty good job with this genre, and I'm excited to see how they develop it in the next 3 episodes.
Cool. So what is Minimal Dungeon RPG?
Minimal Dungeon RPG is just a garbage game that I've been playing on my phone. It's actually not garbage. I shouldn't be so disparaging right off the bat. But in order to talk about this, I have to talk about a kind of a goofy Flash game from I think it was around in 2012. I don't know if I talked about it on here before, but either way, it's been a while. So there's this game called Parameters by this Japanese developer. I think he went by Neko Games. He made a bunch of weird Flash RPGs. But what Parameters was is you would load it up and you would get kind of a grid, looked almost like a spreadsheet with a bunch of different little colored boxes with numbers in them. I forget how clear it was what you're supposed to do. It might have all been in Japanese. So I would just start clicking on stuff and realize real quickly that what the game was essentially a traditional kind of JRPG just boiled down to the most basic form of just you click these boxes and you realize that by doing that you're essentially fighting an enemy. And as you click the box itself is like an HP meter that would wear down. So you would fight a bunch of enemies that way. You would click other boxes that would be like opening treasure chests or spending gold that you accumulate for better equipment, or spending skill points to level up that way. But it was this whole thing, and it was surprisingly addictive to play an entire RPG this way. Because as soon as you figured out how the game worked, you could speed run it essentially. Figure out okay, I gotta go fight these enemies, gotta level up a little bit, go fight these stronger enemies, and all this is taking place on just this one browser window with a bunch of little colored boxes in it. It was really bizarre.
And that was called what?
It was called Parameters. And I think you can still play it. I don't have Flash installed in any of my browsers anymore, so I couldn't tell you how well it works still. But I will post a link to it in the show post if you want to check it out. It's pretty fun. If you've ever played a console RPG, I definitely recommend you checking it out. But anyway, so flash forward to a week ago. I was browsing through the App Store on my phone because I don't have enough video games to play. And I think this was actually, it popped up in one of the featured spots. Was this game Minimal Dungeon RPG? I'm just like, what is this? And the screenshot looks strangely familiar with a little grid of colored boxes with a bunch of stats in them. I was like, did somebody just rip off Parameters? First of all, somebody has heard of that game? And second of all, I can't believe this is actually happening. So it was free. I downloaded it. And it's essentially that's exactly what it is. Somebody just made a new Parameters game. And at first I was just kind of rolling my eyes a little bit because I thought it was one of these situations where, everybody had to make a Flappy Bird clone in the first 24 hours of release because that was real popular. So I was like, great, somebody's just trying to cash in on this weird Flash developer from 10 years ago. But it's a little more in-depth than that. It's actually you ever Puzzle Quest?
Yes. So
that was basically Bejeweled, but they somehow stretched it out into an entire RPG.
Right.
So I think it's kind of a similar situation with this Minimal Dungeon RPG, where you start out with a little grid of boxes and you click on them, you click through them in the same way that you do in Parameters. So you fight some enemies. There's some boxes that just represent like you exploring around and gaining experience. And then you spend them on stat points and equipment upgrades, and then you move on to the next set of boxes. So it's a much lengthier experience than the original parameters. But it is just the same kind of style of gameplay where it's super abstract. You're still essentially playing an RPG, but it's just, in this extremely minimal form. Hence the minimal dungeon RPG.
Excellent. I'm looking at it now. It is on the Google Play Store as well.
Okay.
And I'm now getting a visual of what you're describing. Yeah, it is. It is exactly as you said. It's a series of squares essentially, and you move from one to the next, and each seems to have an interaction or an option or a choice in it.
Yeah.
And it is pretty minimal as described on the package.
Yep.
It
feels like there's a little bit more going on in this one. Like they've put the work in, so it is not just a straight rip off of parameters. It feels more like inspired by parameters. So they're like, you go to a bunch of different towns. There are little side dungeons you can do. There's like a garden where you can grow seeds and then sacrifice fruits to some shrine to increase your stats or whatever. There's a lot more happening, although it is clearly just based on that same parameters model, which I think is fun. There's a story which is not especially well localized. I think it's by a Chinese developer, so a lot of it doesn't come through very well. I think it ends up coming off a little silly, but it's not really about the story. I was just kind of in here to see, like, what are they doing with parameters in 2020? Right. Kind of weird. Or whenever this game came out. I don't know if it's like brand new or not. So that was just a weird discovery I made a couple weeks ago.
Cool.
I'm glad to see that a single other person has played that original game, because I thought it was just a weird little RPG toy that was lost on the internet after everybody was warned to install or to uninstall Flash, I guess. And
10 years later, they had an itch for it, and they had to build their own from scratch.
Yeah. The thing that worries me about it is I'm not sure how long it is. I've been playing it for a while. I'm up to, I think, the 19th or 20th stage, and it's getting a bit grindy. So I don't know how long I feel like sticking with it, because I feel like I've gotten the point by now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, I know how this works.
Is it free to play, or
how
does monetization work?
Here's the thing. Occasionally there'll be a box that has like a treasure chest or like a few attack points or whatever, and you just have to watch a little commercial to unlock the box.
Okay.
Which is, pretty typical for these purely free to play kind of app store things.
So they're collecting ad revenue.
Yeah. As far as I can tell, there's no just like unlock everything option, like a $4 or $5 thing that, we talked about some games do that. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So I spent a little bit of my time watching ads over the past week. It's fine.
Excellent. Lining the pockets of a Chinese developer.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, it's a fun diversion, especially if you've never played the original parameters. Yeah. So,
and what a weird sort of discovery that, X number of years later, someone is keeping the dream of parameters alive.
Yeah, I know. That was the craziest thing about it to me.
Well, cool. So, as I kind of mentioned at the top of the show, I am back to Persona 5 after a very long hiatus. So this is
how do you come back to a game like this?
Well, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about this week, because I mean, there's really not anything new that I can say about Persona 5 at this point, but there is an unusual experience in coming back to a game after having not touched it for so long. I put a lot of hours into this thing. Like I said, I think it was like 67 hours in my save, and then I stopped playing it for a very long time.
Like I think I went back to it. Right?
Yeah,
well, this was like 2018.
I think it's an 18 game, yeah. And it was early 18. I believe it was March, April or something like that. Put a ton of hours into it immediately, super enamored with it at the start. And then as I do, I got distracted by other things. I would check back into it periodically, but my save, when I booted it up last week, said that I had not touched it since July of 2019. So Ooh. It's been 8 months since I played it last. And that is a very long time to go without playing a game. I think instinctively, sometimes I would just sort of start back at the beginning, but after 67 hours...
Yeah, 67 hours is a lot of time.
Yeah. I'm not throwing that away and just going back to the start. So I figured I would just sort of throw myself into it and see if I could figure out where the hell I am or what's going on. The good news is that I kind of left it so that I wasn't in a dungeon. I wasn't in the middle of a huge fight or trying to sort of make sure my team didn't die. I was in kind of the mundane kind of calendar manipulation part of Persona, where you're basically going to school every day and hanging out with your friends, and kind of building up your social links so that you can then take that into a dungeon later, into what I think the game sort of refers to as kind of like a mind castle, a mind temple or something like that, where the enemies in the game essentially build a fortification and you and your team of phantom thieves kind of break in, and do your thing. And that's where kind of it turns into an RPG, and you have big battles and monsters roam the halls and there's a huge boss fight at the end, and et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So the good news is I didn't leave myself in the midst of one of those chaotic, crazy fights. I left it with me just sort of like, hey, let's go for ramen, Randy.
Sounds like Persona.
Yeah, getting a text message going, do you want to hang out with the cute girl or your annoying friend? And the right answer, of course, is hang out with the cute girl.
And this one, are you still just like hanging out one-on-one with people, or do you have your group that you go around with?
There are some group hangs. Yeah, I have 5 people on the team right now, and we do occasionally go out collectively as a group.
Right.
So you get a little bit of money from each of the big battles you go through. So being a group of teenagers, the way that you choose to spend your money is to go to a buffet.
Nice.
So it cut to a shot of all 5 members of your team just sort of like kicking back at the table with their hands on their bellies going, oh my God, I can't believe I ate all of that food. Which, sounds like a very kind of high school or college thing to do when you've got a little disposable income that you've found. So it's fun. Yeah, it's good. And it was a quick and kind of, useful way of me kind of getting reacquainted with who some of these characters are. There were things that were sort of like, something came on the news and it alluded to something or referenced something that probably should have meant something to me, or probably at least called back to the last mission that I did, but I didn't remember what the last mission I did was. And I was like, I wonder if that's useful information or helpful. The good news is I had a couple of files on my phone that I had made of who all the characters were, and every character in the game has a corresponding persona, and that persona aligns with some arcana from tarot, from tarot cards. And I had made myself a list of who all of my friends were, what their corresponding arcana was, what their persona was, and what its abilities were. So I was making myself kind of cheat sheets 2 years ago, and those little files were still in Google Keep on my phone, fortunately.
That's key.
So I was able to dig them out of the archive on my phone and go, oh, that's what they're talking about. That's who that character is. And I put probably 3 or 4 more hours into it last week and got up to the point where I'm about to go into another temple, into another kind of mind castle, essentially, and I'm going to take on another dungeon and a bunch of baddies. So I've done no combat in my kind of reacclimation to Persona 5. It has been all social links, hanging out with friends, eating ramen, etc., etc. I'm a little nervous about being able to hang now that I'm fighting my way into a temple, but we will see how that happens, how that goes.
That's probably fine.
Yeah. I mean, most of the kind of RPG games, particularly these Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, these kinds of games, like the flow of combat is very similar from one to the other, and I think it would be not so difficult to kind of wrap my brain around what am I supposed to do when it's my turn, essentially. Right. Just sort of remembering what everybody's powers do and what all of the little, their little magic spells and all this stuff, what all the little descriptions.
You just got to remember who's got which elemental spells and, the order that they go in.
Who's my healer? Yeah. How do I get out of this thing alive? When do I save? So it's just sort of reminding myself of what kind of the cadence of these things is supposed to be like. But I was a tiny bit overwhelmed because, my group of friends now is 5. And outside of your group of friends, you have all of the people all over the city that have some significance to you, and your relationship with them strengthens your resolve when you go into the temple and makes your arcana stronger, and et cetera, et cetera. So I was sort of like, I truly have no idea who that character is. And there was sort of one that was sort of like, come meet me at this place. And it opens up a map, and you're supposed to select like the stop on the subway where that person lives so you can come meet them.
No.
And I was like, I don't know where you live anymore. I'm sorry. So to Google to resolve that, I had to figure it out. Yeah. Unfortunately, it was also finals week in the game.
Oh, no.
So the teacher would ask you a bunch of questions and you had to pick the correct answer. And it was presumably stuff that I knew when I played it 8 months ago. And
because you get to go to the classes and that's what they tell you, right?
Correct, exactly, yeah. But I've not gone to class in 8 months.
Yeah.
So Google saved my ass on those as well. But so yeah, I'm muscling my way back through it. I remember why I love these games and why they're kind of fun. I had it on, and Sarah's like, "This music sounds familiar," and I'm like, "Yeah, because I played this game before." And the more it sort of like was kind of in the background, she's like, "This music is really annoying. I remember this now," and I'm like, "I like it," but I could see why somebody would maybe find it a little repetitive. But yeah, so I'm kind of back into Persona 5 now. I hope maybe this will be the thing that gets me home. How Long to Beat says the game kind of at the low end is about 85 hours long. So I maybe have another 20 hours before I could probably call this thing done.
It's fine. Do an hour a day for 3 weeks.
Seems pretty reasonable, and I could probably achieve that between now and Animal Crossing Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in a similar situation with Persona 3, which I feel like I started playing that around the same time as you started Persona 5. Because it was just,
you're right, yes.
Everybody was just swept up in like Persona 5 madness. And I was like, I'm going to play Persona 3. And I did for a little while. And then I stopped for whatever reason. Although I think I only stopped around a mere 25 hours. So, only the entirety of Luigi's Mansion 3. But I'm in kind of the same situation where I'm just like, I want to go back and finish that game. Do I just pick up where I left off? Do I attempt to do that? Do I, 25 hours is not a short amount of time to just throw in the garbage and reset.
It's
but
a full day of your life.
It is. In terms of, how long that game is, I think it's probably like 80 or 90 hours. It's not,
about right for
not the majority of it.
No, but still a quarter.
It's a quarter. Yeah, right. But I find myself worrying about the same things. It's a lot about like all the social links I was pursuing. What did happen to the Ramen King or whoever that was? And I'm sure I've forgotten all the different tarot affinities and all that. So when I get back into battle, I just have to remember like, well, who's got the wind spells or the wind persona or whatever.
Yep.
But I don't know. I thought about maybe restarting in the portable version because I was playing the PS2 one before.
Okay.
I thought, well, maybe I'll be able to sink some more time into it if it's on a handheld or something.
Yeah.
But that would mean giving up those 25 hours that I've already played and all the effort that I've put into those social links because, I've already had several hangout sessions with the Ramen King. Is it the Ramen King? Is he like a dumpling king? He's like some food celebrity in that game. I don't know.
That's funny. Yeah. Yes. Well, that's I've only ever played the portable version of Persona P3P, right? Persona 3 Portable.
Right.
I've never actually played the PS2 version of it, so I don't have a point of comparison there. But
it's weird because when I was doing all my research leading up to like deciding which version I was going to play, like there is exclusive stuff in both versions. So there's in order to get the entire Persona 3 experience, you have to play both of them.
Oh God.
Yeah. So for super fans only.
The thing that sort of like led me back to Persona 5 is one, I never finished it and I want to finish it and I like it a lot, despite having not finished it. But there's a new version of it coming out. There's a Persona 5 Royal coming to the PS4 soon. And I was reading an article about like everything they had added and all of the additional stuff, and there's more characters and more story and etc. And I'm like, how could there possibly be more? And there's no attempt on behalf of these developers to connect the original Persona 5 to Persona 5 Royal. They're two separate products.
Yeah, you can't import your save or anything, right?
Right. Yeah, your progress doesn't carry, and it's not like a free upgrade. It's not like if you have Persona 5, you get Royal for free or something like that. They're two separate $60 games, and I'm like, there's no way I am ditching my progress and starting this thing over, even if it means I'm going to miss out on something. Perhaps it's better if I miss out on something, because really, how much more story does Persona 5?
You probably just get you probably just get 67 hours into Persona 5 Royal and then drop it again.
Just fizzle, yeah.
Pick it up in that way 2022.
140 hours on a game I'm never going to see the end of.
Right. And you know the new one's going to be like 150 hours minimum.
Right, exactly. So yeah. Persona. Yay.
Maybe I should start playing Persona 3 again. Or forget Life is Strange 2.
No, don't do that.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Just jump to Persona 5, PJ.
I heard Persona 4 is really good. I want to play that.
It is really good, yes. I would recommend that too. Play all of them simultaneously.
I was watching a YouTube video about, the most contentious change between Persona 4 and the handheld version, right? You haven't heard of this?
No, I'm not sure.
They changed the voice actor for Chie between the versions.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
Means nothing to me. I know who the character is, but I haven't played either version, so I was like, might as well just play the portable one, even though people don't like that one as much, right? But then I listened to this YouTube video somebody made. I'm like, oh, the original actor is kind of better. What do I do? But I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. That's a long way away from that.
And you are back to Dragon Quest Builders 2 as well.
I finished Dragon Quest Builders 2.
Oh, wow.
It ends at some point. Well, the story ends.
That's impressive.
I just want to say a couple things about it. I talked about it a little bit on the 2019 wrap-up.
Yeah.
About how I both love and hate this game. It turns out that I feel like all the positives outweigh the negatives in the end. Because in the end, you finish the story, and I have some objections to some of the stuff they designed throughout the story, but once you complete it, you are just dropped off at the big central kind of hub island that you've been revisiting throughout the game, and you are just left to your own devices to kind of develop it up, and you're given some direction, there are these different building targets you can strive for, build a certain number of rooms or install a certain number of light fixtures throughout the island. You'll unlock this little bonus medal or whatever.
So it continues to give you new objectives at the very least to continue looking for it.
Yeah. They're just things you can do that will give you rewards if, you're not up for the just completely open-ended experience that kind of Dragon Quest Builders 1 was. But another way that it differentiates itself from Dragon Quest Builders 1 is at the end of that game, you have kind of the same setup where you would just be free to build whatever you wanted on this completely empty island, which was fun for a while. But one of the things that I think that Dragon Quest Builders does as a series is one of the reasons why I like it much more than Minecraft is you have townspeople who live on the island with you, at least throughout the campaign, and they're the ones that make all the requests of you. They're the ones that you are building all these structures for, and that wasn't in sort of the end game in Dragon Quest Builders 1. So in that sense, it did feel much more like Minecraft at the end of Dragon Quest Builders 1, where you're just kind of directionless. You're by yourself on this island, except for the handful of monsters or whatever you recruit, if I remember correctly. But I really liked throughout the campaign, you would build stuff, and whenever you put the finishing touches on a room, inevitably one of the villagers would run over to you and just flip out about how cool the room was, and it really felt kind of purposeful. So where Dragon Quest Builders 2 changes that is that all the villagers you've been, hanging out with throughout the entire campaign can come live with you on this the central island, and it's just kind of like an extension of the campaign where you keep building stuff and they will keep kind of reacting to it and making use of all the stuff you're building, which I think is really cool. So I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of what I wanted out of the first one. So, I'm spending a little bit of time just messing around, building extra rooms, kind of extending onto whatever was already on the island at the end of the game. But I feel like that's a lot more reason for me to go back to it now than I had with Dragon Quest Builders 1. That said, it took me like 95 hours to get through the campaign in Dragon Quest Builders 2. And that includes, it definitely includes a lot of time that I spent just kind of building aimlessly, or just building beyond sort of the baseline objectives that they give you to get through the campaign, just because I felt like it's kind of the whole reason I'm here. I just feel like building stuff. But I think I'm going to step away from it for a little while, at least, just because I've been playing so much of this game in the last month. It is ridiculous. And it's time for some other stuff. Death Stranding, maybe. But I really enjoy the end of that, the stuff that happens at the end of that game, especially like the free building island stuff is super good. There are not as many like extended dialogue sequences after you finish the main campaign,
which was a big point of contention for you throughout. Yes.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
One of my other issues was that even when you're trying to build stuff, you just keep getting attacked by monsters, which was irritating. So I've taken all my kind of like workbenches and hold them up inside a castle or whatever structure I'm working on at the time, and the monsters just stay outside and it's fine. So I've been able to like circumvent a lot of the issues that I was having throughout the campaign that were kind of detracting from it, and it all just comes together.
Creative construction.
Yeah. And the occasional spiky barricade, but overall it's much better now. So I'm very pleased with it. Still one of my absolute favorite games from last year. And who knows how long I will just continue playing it this year. But it's probably the last time I'm going to talk about it on here unless something really amazing happens.
Yeah, this I had a weird moment in the last week or two where I was trying to figure out, like, what do I play next? And I had, obviously, your kind of voice in my head telling me how much you enjoyed playing this game. And one of the gaming blogs, somebody had posted an article that was sort of like, man, I wish I had played this game in 2019, because if I did, it would have been my favorite game of the year.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, people love Dragon Quest Builders 2. Maybe I should play that. And then I went to how long to beat, and kind of minimum point of entry is 55 hours.
That's huge.
I'm like, nope, it's just no. You could rush through it, it says, in 47 hours. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that either. So
no, you don't want to rush through it. That's what you end up doing.
Right, exactly, yeah. There's probably no Dragon Quest Builders 2 in my near future, unfortunately. But
I mean, it's supposed to be a leisurely experience. I feel like that's when it's best. So like, it's like 95 hours of having a good time. And not just like, it's not an intense 95 hours. It's still lengthy, though. There is an enormous demo of this out on, I think, most platforms, though. So you can actually play like a significant portion of the first chapter.
Geez, I think, isn't it called Dragon Quest Builders 2 the Big Demo or something?
It's a name sort of like that. It's like the jumbo demo or whatever.
Yeah.
And I believe, your save file better import into the full game at that point. I believe it does. So if you have any interest in checking it out, that seems like a no-brainer. Very low investment.
That's the way to go.
It's really good.
Cool. Well, good. Well, that's a lot of games. Is that everything? Did you talk about everything we promised? We did.
I think that's it.
That's the whole list. All right, well, we should wrap this thing up then. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover, or head to our blog at VGHangover.com. We are also on the Discord. You should definitely hop into our Discord. It's been a little quiet lately. I think we've, people are kind of getting back into the swing of their post-holiday lives, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
But people posting pictures of their game room.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. If you've got an awesome game room that you would like to share with your fellow video game hangover nerds, definitely hop into our Discord.
And I've never had a just dedicated game room like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of how you envision when somebody's like, oh, here's like the game cave or whatever, and the walls are just lined with every Nintendo game and all a bunch of like plushies and all that stuff.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, and unfortunately in my house, that stuff just takes over the living room much too.
Well, I was going to say, I have it spread strategically throughout my apartment, so really the entire place is
much to my girlfriend's dismay, so yeah. Cool. We do want to recommend that you subscribe to us on Spotify too. We're excited to get the show on Spotify kind of late last year. So if you're looking for a nice, easy way to consume Video Game Hangover every week, definitely subscribe to us on Spotify.
Yeah. Tell your friends to subscribe on Spotify too.
Yeah, do that as well. Man, we're one last plug. We're about a month away from me being at PAX East. So if you are heading to Boston at the end of February to go to PAX East, and you'd like to hang out, play some video games, maybe get a beer or something like that, look me up. Connect with me on Twitter or Discord or someplace like that, and we'll trade info and find each other in Boston because, I can't just stand in line and wait to play demos all day. I'm going to have to, have human contact.
I wish I could go. Is it still going to be just super cold in February in Boston? Is that still how they do it?
Oh, undoubtedly. Yes, that's, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
It's kind of their thing.
Well, I will be gazing longingly from a distance, I suppose.
You'll be gazing east. Yeah, wondering what you're missing. Yep. Cool. All right, well, we'll be back next week with more games for you. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.
Sonic the Hedgehog.